the trash truck, man. I don't even know.
Plans are to prosper you. Plans not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in the future. Trust in the Lord and He will guide you.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Winnie and I'm back with another video. If you're new to my channel, please go ahead and consider subscribing to my channel. I mean, you here, you know what I'm saying? So just go ahead and take the plunge, become part of Team Wendy, you know what I'm saying? A1 since day one, show appreciation, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about already, man. And so, in this video, I'm going to be telling you guys, well, detailing my experience at Fort Lewis, Washington, my second duty station. I have Raisin Canes. This is a lemonade. I got the Caniac combo, and Joni and I are sharing it. I got some cane sauce, some chicken tenders, and fries, and a toast. Got some toast. Anyway, so I get to Fort Lewis, Washington, December of 2006, and like I said in the previous video, I had I was in the 29th Signal Battalion in the headquarters platoon. So I'm a corporal or whatnot. And as they're there, as I get there, you know, I have corporal pinned on me. And so the acting first sergeant at the time, not the acting first sergeant, who was it? Somebody came up to me and was like, oh, well, we finna take your promotion. We gonna demote you to specialist. Specialist and corporal, they was the same thing, basically. You know what I'm saying? People say that it's increased responsibility. It really ain't. It's basically, it's the same exact thing. And so I was like, hold on. You going what? You know. And so it was Sergeant Molina, Sergeant E5, not Staff Sergeant. Sergeant E5 Molina, she was the S1 acting NCOIC. And so she was like, she was going to take my promotion. I was like, what? I was like, oh, okay. No. And so I had my documents with me. So I took my promotion orders up there. And I think I ended up getting with the first sergeant. I don't remember his name. But I ended up getting with him, talking to him about it. And he was like, ain't nobody finna do that. And I noticed that after that, Sergeant Molina ain't like me. I was like, I don't, like what? Like I didn't even do nothing. And so I get there and that's my first introduction to the unit. You know what I'm saying? Like I get there, I sign in, a couple of days later, you know, when I come back off leave, you know, she like, oh, we're gonna take a promotion. What? Yes, they could. But I'm just like, for what? Like, I ain't even bothering you. I worked hard for this. I went to recruiter school, boo. I was in recruiter school. So then, like I said before, the unit was, they were already deployed. I don't know where they was deployed to, but they was gone for a minute. And I wasn't slated to follow them. But what I did recognize with that unit was that a lot of people on rear detachment. Like a lot. And I'm like, y'all rear detachment big to the mud. And most of those people stayed on rear detachment. Like nobody really went forward. I don't recall anybody going forward, actually. So, I'm assigned to, because I'm still in 92 Alpha at this point. So, I did not get there December of 06. I got there December of 2005. And so I got there, and a couple months after I got there, I made cutoff because I had enough promotion points, and I don't remember what they were at the time. So I'm gonna insert a picture. I'm gonna just be inserting random pictures of my time. And so I got promoted, and Sergeant Cartwell, that's the lady's name. Staff Sergeant Cartwell, she came and she pinned me or whatnot. And it was cool, you know what I'm saying? I didn't really know what to expect. And then it was like right away I went into I went to WLC, which is Warrior Leader Course. And at that time, that was their form. So PLDC, Primary Leader Development Course, changed from that to Warrior Leader Course. And so it was, when I went, it was still a month. And what I noticed was that, well, basically my class was the last class on Fort Lewis to go 30 days. And so I'm like, man, like I be making the cutoff for the wrong stuff. So I'm there 30 days. I'm there 30 days or whatever. And I met Jocko, Jones, and a Samoan guy. I don't remember his name. And I don't have pictures of this, but it was cool, you know what I'm saying? It was straight. I liked it. The training was it was crazy. It kind of reminded me of being in basic all over again, because I didn't really learn anything about being a leader, you know, but it was cool for what it was. It was straight. So then we get out of WLC. Oh, and y'all. Okay. I met another Bailey in WLC. Okay. And he was Bailey J. And so he was from, I don't know, his where did he say his people were from? Somewhere in Europe his people were from, and like his ancestors and stuff like that. And so he had a real defined jawline, and he was crazy. He was crazy for show. But hey, I was like, hey, like you like it, I love it. But he was just real. He was cool, he was funny. And but he was just crazy. Like, he would just say crazy stuff. He'd be like burping and farting and stuff. I'm like, bro, what you doing? It was disgusting. But he was funny. And so, you know, he was a Bailey. So, you know, I've had Baileys in a lot of places, okay? So, I go from there, from WLC, and I go back to my unit. And so at this time, I'm like, because I knew for promotion points to become a staff sergeant in 92 Alpha Field, they was always maxed out. And when I say maxed out, 798 points is what you needed. And so I knew that wasn't something that I was going to do. I was like, I'm not finna grind, you know, because it was some people that I knew that had been on the list for years, because they couldn't make cutoff because they didn't have enough points. No matter how much schooling they went to, they weren't never going to make it. Unless, you know, you got the hookup. And so I was like, well, I'm finna make a career change. And because I had taken the ASVAB and did so well, like my, well, I didn't say did so well because I didn't even apply myself. But I for my GT score, it was a 112. And so that opened it up to where I could go to any I could go to any MOS. I could do anything that I wanted to do because most of my scores were over 105, if I remember correctly. So I was talking to, who was I talking to? I don't know. Somehow, some way, I got in contact with somebody, and I decided that I was gonna change my MOS. And so what I did was I researched, whatever MOSs had the lowest points, and then whatever could give me an edge on the outside. Because at this point, I knew that I knew I wasn't gonna be in the Army forever. So I was like, well, let me try to get a skill or a set that I could use on the outside. So I met this dude named Sergeant Leesman, and he was a 35 Fox, and he was young enough to be a sergeant. And so I started talking to him about the MOS or whatnot, because he was doing like clearances and stuff like that. He had an inside job. 92 Alpha, you subject to be anywhere. So I was like, okay, all right. And so I did the paperwork through the retention person, I think. I did the paperwork through somebody. And doing the paperwork, that's when I had to do my first SF-86. So I do the SF-86 or whatnot. And at this point, I know that, you got to put down everything. And so I really wanted to become I really wanted to become a 35 Fox. And so I was like, well, let me just go ahead and disclose, whatever it is, and then let the chips fall where they may. And so long story short, got selected for it. And I had a school date of May of 06. And so everything happened rapidly. Most Ricky T. Was it May of 06? Yeah, May of 06. And then, so I go there or whatever, and then I go to the school. So basically I changed from a 92 Alpha to a 35 Fox, which is an all-source intelligence analyst. If I had done my research for real, then what I would have done was I would have been something else, SIGINT, a GEO, or something. I wouldn't have picked all source. But, it is what it is. And because being an all-source analyst afforded me to do a lot of different stuff. So I go down. So basically I was a reclass. And so it's called a reclassification. So I changed my job or whatever. So I drive from Fort Lewis, Washington down to Fort Huachuca, Arizona. So I get up at 1 o'clock in the morning and to start driving down to school. And so I have all these CDs and whatnot, and so I'm driving down there and whatnot. And so the first hour, 2, 3, basically till the sun come up, I'm still kind of like, I'm just like, the trash truck, man. I don't even know. But anyway, so I go, I'm driving down there. And so at this time that's when, what's that boy name? Justin Timberlake came out with a CD and all that other stuff. So, I had whatever new CDs that there were. I went ahead and purchased them because I didn't have satellite radio. Yeah, I didn't have satellite radio in my truck at the time. So, so I'm, banging all this music or whatever. So I make it to Henderson, Nevada. Right outside of Las Vegas. And so I'm beat. I am tired. So at this time it's about 8, 9 o'clock at night. And so I was like, well, I know I need to stop, because if I proceed, because I didn't want to go into the Vegas Strip. Well, I didn't want to go into Vegas by myself. Because I did at this time I didn't know nothing about Vegas. So I stopped there, and this hotel was shady. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I can't even tell you the kind of hotel it was. It was dark. It was dingy. I was like, what? You need to plan your trip better. So get up the next morning, and I make it down there to Fort Huachuca. So I go to sign in. I'm in civilian clothes, and so it's this. I think he was it was some instructor, and he was like, you need to go change and get into your uniform. I'm like, bro, you tripping. So all my bags are packed in my truck. And so I had like one uniform like right on top that I could easily change into. So I go change to the uniform in my truck, go sign in. And so while I'm there, I meet Newland, I meet Raven, I meet Villalobos. Raven's her first name. I meet Villalobos. I was a terrorist. Like it was like this simulated type thing. It was this huge field exercise or whatnot. And so I was a terrorist. I'll insert pictures of that. And I took off on them boys. Like they was trying to catch me. No. And so I'm running around the compound talking about some, for the love of Allah! For the love of Allah! I'm yelling for the love of Allah. I was really in character, okay? You know? So, look. So, I leave from school and somewhere... So, as I'm on rear D, the Sergeant Anderson sent me to the board. So I went to the board, and this time I only got a 145, but at this point I'm like, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't put it on your, it don't go on your NCOER what points you got on the promotion board. So I graduated school, so I went to school in May of 06. I graduated August. No, I graduated September. I don't know, I was in school for a long time. It was like 17 weeks. So then, so I got picked up for promotion October 1st of 06. So I get pinned or whatever, because at this point for 35 Fox's staff sergeants, the cutoff points was like 450 or something. I had more than enough points. I got selected. And then I did not go to ALC. No, BLC. I didn't go to BLC, basic leader course. I didn't go there. I just did my time there. Our unit changed over from 29th Signal to 51st Signal. I met some cool folks. None of them I keep in contact with. Yeah, I don't keep in contact with any of them. And then I just got tired of being at Fort Lewis. It rained 10 months out of the year. And then when it was summertime, like when I got to Fort Lewis, of course, like, right. When I got to Fort Lewis, the summers were so hot that the elderly were dying, because in Fort Lewis, they didn't have, not Fort Lewis, but in the surrounding areas, because the weather was always mild, so they didn't have, AC and stuff like that in their homes, so people were dying. And so I'm just like, what is going on? You know what I'm saying? Why is it that when I go to certain duty stations, the weather is always horrible? So I'm like, okay, I think Lawana had called me one day. And so she was like, she was like, hey, can you come back to Bragg? I specifically remember her asking me to come back to Bragg. And so I was like, well, Saints, Bragg is all I know. So Bragg was all I knew. Bragg was all the person I was with. That's all he knew. So we were like, hey, yeah, because his friends were still at Bragg. My friends were still at Bragg. Well, Lawana was the only one, because everybody else had PCS for the most part, or had gotten out of the Army by this time. So, you know, we decided that we are going to go back to Fort Bragg. So we pack up. So I drove across the country to Fort Lewis twice. So I helped old buddy drive his car, and then I drove my what I have. I had a truck. I don't know, whatever car I had. I drove that by myself because he was deployed. And so then we shipped his car back to Bragg and drove my truck to Fort Bragg. So I've driven clear across country 3 times. And so we get back to Bragg or whatever, and before I get there, you know, they was like, you gonna be in 82nd, what was it? 82nd. It's whichever one, it's a certain part of 82nd where it's just people that aren't airborne. And so I was like, I'm not airborne. Why am I going to 82nd anyway? Why? Why am I going to 82nd? How am I slated to go to 82nd? Not, you know, forgetting that I'm no longer 92 Alpha. I'm a 35 Fox. And so at this time, there was a shortage. Well, there was always a shortage of 35 Foxes. So, what was it? 82nd? I don't care. I don't remember. So I'm there at that place or whatever, right? And, well, I was supposed to go there, but in me, upon my arrival to 82nd, 82nd, um, 504th PIR, 82nd Combat Aviation Brigade, they were slated to deploy. And so I ain't been on the deployment since 0304. So they changed my assignment and they sent me there. And so I get there and I'm like, this is whack. So I did not talk to anyone in this unit for like 3 months. That's how mad I was. Like, I ain't talked to him. Like, don't look at me. Don't Sergeant hey me. Like, nothing. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to say. So, upon that, so I worked in what's known as an S2. So I went from, you know, being in the trenches to, you know, working in S2. And so basically, you know, we in garrison here in the States, we ran clearances and kept up with people's clearances and helped people get their clearances and stuff like that. But when we were at war, what we had to do was there's different things that you can do, but what I did for the section that I worked in, we you know, tracked down the bad guys, got their location, got it to where you know, and gave their location up to the necessary people so that those people could be killed. And I saw a lot of stuff on the live feed. I saw, you know, bombs being dropped and IEDs exploding on convoys. And somebody that I knew was actually in one of those convoys. And so this deployment was totally different. This deployment right here was the first time that I had experienced death in the way that I had experienced death. So, Staff Sergeant Bauer was the first person to die, and that was January 10th, 2008. no, 2009. January 10, 2009, he was the first casualty. And so it was more like we had like 10 more casualties. But while deployed, there were Sergeant Gaddy, she was cool in a mug. Sergeant Halsey, she was cool in a mug. Sergeant Hawkinsmith, he was crazy. He's crazy. And then at this time, you know, Sergeant First Class Bailey, you know, he's there as well. So, you know, all these people, you know, because we were all essentially going through the same thing, especially Sergeant Halsey, because she was a jump master and she was a black female. And so she caught a lot of heat and a lot of flack. And so, so we're going through the deployment and whatnot. And, it's just different. You know what I'm saying? Like being, cause it was literally like maybe 10 females in my whole company. So, you know, I'm used to it being, you know, female heavy. No. No. And them boys, there's something else, okay? There's something else. And so, not being airborne wasn't an issue, or anything like that. Like nobody picked on me because I wasn't airborne. Because I knew my job and I knew it well and I did it well. So nobody really messed with me, for the most part. And, yeah, that deployment was crazy. Seeing that stuff on the feed, that was crazy. And I didn't know, you know, what being a 35 Fox entailed, but I don't think I would change it. And I wouldn't change it because it afforded me to have the opportunity. Well, I had a top secret clearance. And so, you know, top secret clearances, they say, the civilians used to always be like, oh, you're fortunate, you have a top secret clearance. I don't know what that means. But they were saying, like, you know, just to apply to get a top secret clearance is $10,000 for whatever company. And I'm like, okay, well, my company would pay for it anyway if I was a civilian. So basically, all in all, you know, the second deployment was totally different from the first. There wasn't really any real camaraderie, you know, compared to the first one. Everybody was essentially they was out for themselves or whatever. So we get back to, so I'm looking to leave because I'm just like, this is not what I signed up for. So I'm like, man, like, where could I go? Like, cause at this point, you know, I had been to Fort Bragg twice. I was at Fort Lewis. So I was like, man, like, I'm tired of humping. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to go where the grass is green, okay? And they don't deploy. So I got with my retention NCO. I don't remember his name. And he was like, you know, I was like, well, you know, I want to go somewhere. And so I was like, what kind of like cool places do you have open? You know, because I was still trying to get to Atlanta because at this point, Luana is out of the Army. And so I wanted to go to Atlanta. But a man plans his own way. And so I didn't get to Atlanta, but he was like, well, we got DIA. And I was like, DIA? I was like, what's that? So it was, he was talking about it was the Defense Intelligence Agency. And so he was like, it's in Bowling, it's on Bowling Air Force Base. I was like, an Air Force Base? What? I was like, you ain't got to tell me twice. Where do I sign up at? So I extended to go to DC. And so this is where I'm going to leave the off off at. This has been my experience at Fort Lewis, Washington, and my experience at Fort Bragg the second time. This has been Journey with Wendy. I'm Wendy. New videos are posted every Tuesday and Thursday, but I think for this week, I'm going to be posting these videos. Hopefully I can get a video out every day. And with that, I'm out.